Well, let's start with Cincinnati. They hit the eject button on David Bell a week ago. They had a fractured season, decimated by injuries, massive disappointment, but they lost so many everyday players before they got out of spring training. Then their pitching staff broke down as they went through the season, and they didn't make the playoffs and sub 500. So they fired David Bell. Out of nowhere, they hired Terry Francona. This guy's resume, this guy's credentials, pretty impressive. Started in Philly, went to Boston, had great success when they ended the curse of the Red Sox. Then he went to Cleveland and manufactured success there. He's got 2 World Series rings. He's got 1,950 victories. Terry Francona, new manager, Cincinnati Reds. Second logo you're looking at, the Angels. Artie Moreno broke his embargo on dealing with the media. Inside interview, Orange County Register. Called this a low point in ownership, says we will fix this roster, we will build around the core, says I will increase the $176 million payroll, but we can't sustain a $215 million payroll as they had a couple of years ago. Words are cheap, actions probably speak better. How are they going to do this? He said Anthony Rendon has been a historic disappointment. There's a thread out there that is indicating they might eat the contract and just rid themselves of Anthony Rendon because he's not been much of a team player and he hasn't produced over 4 years. I think his batting average for the kind of money he's making is .231 in 4 years with the Halos. Moreno said he's going to sit down and we'll talk about Mike Trout as to what Trout wants to do to contribute to the team because Trout's already said, I'm not waiving my no-trade clause. I want to end my career here with the Halos. We want to fix that. Third item has to do with Joe Musgrove. I tell you, it was very emotional to watch the press briefing when he sat in the dugout and he almost wept when he talked about how devastating the injury was, how he had to wrap his mind around the fact he's looking at 14 to 18 months of rehab from the torn elbow ligament, and the fact that they may have to take the bone spur out, which is a second surgical procedure. He's been a warrior. He's been everything good about what Padre baseball represents. And, of course, he's a hometown hero, but that was so hard. And he said this elbow had flared in midseason. The MRI showed there was something not right. He thought he was living on borrowed time, and then he tore the elbow ligament. We don't know if it's going to be full surgery or brace surgery. If it's brace, he could be back within 8 months. But if it's the full ligament transplant, we're talking gone through 2025. And then we'll see what happens, how quickly he gets back into 26. Meanwhile, Scott Boras, your super agent, has taken another client. It's Hassan Kim. And that means he's probably not coming back to the Padres. Now, the shortstop, who, of course, has got a torn labrum, is going to have his own surgery. He has an $8 million option this season. Scott Boras is not hiring that guy to take up the option. So he's probably going on the open market, but I'm not sure what his value is going to be considering this season. He's hitting like 209 to 220, etc. Boras, of course, continues to represent marquee names. Blake Snell's going to opt out. Cody Bellinger might opt out. Corbin Burns, Baltimore, is a free agent. Alonso of the Mets is going to be a free agent. Bregman of Houston is going to be a free agent. So everything this winter, the baseball meeting starting in December, is going to cycle through Scott Boras's office. So those are the baseball storylines. John, give me your thoughts about Francona in Cincinnati, what the owner of the Angels had to say, your thoughts on the Musgrove calamity, and obviously Scott Boras.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Francona obviously has a great track record, and, it's surprising he's back, but, good on them for getting him. The Reds are going to be an up-and-coming team. They have a lot of really good talent there. So they could be, the NL Central isn't a really super competitive division, so there's a shot for them. The Musgrove deal, isn't it weird that if you can go in and do a Tommy John surgery while you're in the elbow, why can't you take care of the bone spurs at the same time? Why is this two separate procedures?
Because of two separate locations in the elbow and how long you're going to keep somebody under to do these two separate procedures. Time will tell once they get in there. And I think they have to find out, is it a complete tear? And then if it's brace surgery, which is a lesser procedure, then they might consider doing it. But there will be two things that they will do on the scope One is the transplant of the ligament. The second one would be bone spur if they're going to go in and shave it in the same procedure. Only time will tell.
Is this Musgrove's going to be his second Tommy John, or has he already had one?
No, this is his first.
Okay, good. I mean, because Walker Buehler certainly doesn't look good after 2 of those surgeries.
Yeah, the success rate for guys who have a second one, at this point, there's not that many have come back. And those who've come back haven't been the same pitcher the second time around. Now, does not say that Walker Buehler, with another off season of strengthening of that elbow and therapy, he could bounce back next year. But it's an extended struggle that he's had at 1-6 on the season, and they're going to give him the ball in Game 3 of this playoff series against the Padres.
Yeah, right on. I mean, here we go with the Padres in the playoffs. But I want to talk about one more thing about Musgrove. He signed that 5-year deal. So how far into it are we? And then he's going to miss all of next season, assuming he has the full Tommy John surgery. When he comes back in 2026, this Padre roster could be completely different.
Yeah, he said it was kind of sad. That's when he started to get choked up. He said, I might not be with these guys, the same group, by the time I'm healthy to pitch again. I think he's got 3 years left on his current contract, and it's upwards of $20 million per season. And of course, it's covered by insurance. If he never pitches again, the Padres don't pay the full contract. But again, he'll go through the therapy, he'll go through the rehab, etc.
Interesting. All right,
What's
here
your
we go.
take on the Angels?
Oh, I don't know. It's such a mess up there. It's, again, if Artie Moreno's been hiding from the media, the dude, you got to be out there. You've got to be communicating and be transparent to keep the fans engaged. But again, I don't know what to make of these guys. Clearly they don't have the right strategy. It's not working. You've commented about how the Ducks are really embracing this Orange County vibe. I like that idea. Maybe the Angels can learn from that.
Well, the hockey team has created this aura of this is Orange Country in direct shot at Artie Moreno's Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Artie's swimming upstream. He's got a lot of issues that he's going to get solved. So if you're a baseball fan, you want to comment on what the Angels owner said, you want to comment on the Reds hire, which I think is mystical, talk about Joe Musgrove, and of course you got to comment on Scott Boras, Hassan Kim. Invite you to join us. John, let's get